Welcome back to Tyler Medeiros TV. Today we're diving into the eerie world of the workplace with 20 chilling paranormal office experiences, from ghostly encounters to inexplicable phenomena. These stories will have you questioning what really lurks in the shadows of your office. Grab your coffee and get ready for some spine-tingling tales. Our first story comes from a bustling marketing firm in the heart of the city. One day during the lunch hour, an employee named Sarah stepped out for a quick bite. Hours passed and she never returned. Her colleagues were concerned, but assumed she had simply extended her lunch. Days later, strange things began happening. Staff reported seeing Sarah wandering the office, her expression distant and almost blank. When anyone approached her, she would vanish, leaving them questioning their sanity. They later discovered that Sarah had tragically been involved in an accident on her way back to the office. In a sleek corporate office, the employees began noticing that the lights would flicker randomly. At first, they brushed it off as a faulty electrical system, but things took a darker turn one night when a lone employee, Andrew, was working late. As he typed away, he felt an inexplicable chill in the air. Suddenly, the lights began to flicker violently, and he caught a glimpse of a shadowy figure darting between the cubicles. Heart racing, he followed the figure, but it vanished before his eyes. The next day, Andrew learned that the office had a history of tragic events, including a fire that claimed the life of a former employee. One employee, Lisa, swore that the break room in her office was haunted. Strange noises filled the air, whispers, laughter, and even the sound of a coffee machine brewing when no one was there. One fateful afternoon, as Lisa made herself a cup of coffee, she heard a voice. She looked around, but found herself alone. Later that week, during a team lunch, a cup flew off the counter with no explanation, shattering on the floor. The eerie atmosphere led the team to investigate the break room's history, uncovering tales of a previous employee who had mysteriously disappeared years before. At an old law office nestled in a historic building, employees often heard the rhythmic sound of typing coming from an empty room late at night. Curious, a junior associate named Tom decided to investigate. As he entered the room, he felt an overwhelming presence, as if he were not alone. The typing continued, echoing in the silence. To his astonishment, he discovered that the typing matched the rhythm of an old secretary who had worked there decades ago. After speaking with some longtime employees, he learned that she had died under mysterious circumstances, and her spirit seemed to linger, still dedicated to her work. In a tech startup, employees began noticing a cold spot in one corner of the office that seemed to defy logic. It was particularly intense during late hours. One night, as Emma was burning the midnight oil, she felt a sudden icy breath on her neck. Shivers raced down her spine, and she turned around to find nothing but darkness. The next day, she confided in a colleague who had also felt the chill. They decided to investigate and discovered that the building had once been a hospital, and many patients had suffered and died in that very corner. During a late-night meeting at a marketing agency, a group of colleagues were brainstorming ideas when they noticed a cold breeze sweeping through the room. Suddenly, at the end of the table, a transparent figure materialized, appearing to listen intently. Shocked, they paused their discussion. When they blinked, the figure was gone. The team later learned that the meeting room had been a waiting area for a now demolished clinic, where patients awaited treatment. They couldn't shake the feeling that the spirit was still searching for answers. An HR manager named Rachel received an unsettling phone call one afternoon from an unknown number. On the other end, there was only silence. At first, she shrugged it off, but the calls continued, always at odd hours. One night, as she was about to leave the office, she picked up the phone only to hear a faint whisper, her name being called softly before the line went dead. Determined to find out who was behind the calls, Rachel researched the number and discovered it belonged to an employee who had passed away the previous year. It felt like a message from beyond, a haunting reminder of the past. While cleaning out a dusty storage room, a young employee named David stumbled upon an old photograph of a group of workers from the 1920s. Intrigued, he took it to the break room to show his colleagues. To everyone's shock, one of the figures in the photo looked strikingly similar to their current boss, Miss Jenkins. When David brought it up, she mentioned that she had always felt a strange connection to the building, as if it were calling to her. The discovery sparked conversations about the office's history and its former inhabitants, leaving everyone with an unsettling sense of nostalgia. In a tall office building known for its haunted past, employees often reported strange occurrences with the elevators. One night, an employee named Mark found himself alone in the lobby. As he called the elevator, he felt an uneasy chill. When the doors opened, he stepped inside, but before they closed, he felt a strange push on his back, forcing him back into the lobby. Heart pounding, he looked around but saw no one. The next day, he learned that several workers had experienced similar encounters, claiming an unseen force was trying to prevent them from using that particular elevator. In a small accounting firm, Sarah often worked late to meet deadlines. One evening, as she focused on her spreadsheets, she heard her name being whispered softly from the walls. Initially, dismissing it as fatigue, she couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. The whispers grew louder, echoing through the office, leading her to believe something sinister was at play. Disturbed, she decided to dig into the office's past and discovered that the previous employee had experienced a nervous breakdown, claiming the walls were speaking to her before she vanished mysteriously. One night, a security guard named Tom was making his rounds when he noticed a door that was supposed to be locked wide open. He had a strange feeling wash over him, but decided to investigate. As he stepped inside, he was met with the sound of faint crying. The source seemed to come from a far corner, but when he approached, the room was empty. Confused and unsettled, Tom locked the door behind him, but the eerie cries continued to echo in his mind long after he left. A graphic designer named Jenna was working on a crucial project late one night when her computer screen began flickering violently. The images on the screen morphed into disturbing faces and cryptic messages appeared, demanding her attention. She tried to shut it down, but the screen wouldn't respond. In a panic, she unplugged the machine. The next day, as she relayed the incident to her coworkers, she discovered that the previous designer had mysteriously disappeared, leaving behind unfinished projects and a haunting aura in the office. In a call center filled with bustling activity during the day, the night shifts felt eerily quiet. Employees frequently reported hearing footsteps echoing through the empty halls. One night, a manager named Lucy decided to investigate. As she followed the sounds, they led her to a darkened corner of the office, where she found nothing but shadows. The following day, she learned that the building had been constructed on the site of an old factory, where many had worked long hours, and some had never left. At an office supply company, employees were baffled when a printer began spitting out strange documents, filled with cryptic messages and unsettling images. Confused and intrigued, they tried to troubleshoot the issue, but every attempt was met with the printer turning on by itself. One employee, Mark, took it upon himself to investigate and found that the printer had once belonged to an employee that had died under mysterious circumstances, and it seemed to have retained part of her spirit. During a particular late night at a call center, employees began to see shadowy figures fitting between the desks. One night, a manager named Greg experienced something chilling. He felt a cold presence behind him and turned to see a dark figure hovering near a co-worker's desk. The figure seemed to watch him intently before vanishing into thin air. After sharing his experience, Greg learned that several employees had reported similar sightings, leading them to believe that the spirit was trying to communicate, or there was something it was trying to warn them about. A receptionist named Karen was tidying up the office when she caught a glimpse of something unsettling in the mirror. It wasn't her own reflection staring back at her, but a figure standing behind her, eerily smiling. Whipping around, she found herself alone. Disturbed, she shared the experience with her colleagues, who told her about a previous receptionist who had died tragically in the office. They believed her spirit remained, watching over the workplace. In an archive room filled with old files and forgotten memories, a librarian named Anna saw a woman in period clothing sorting through the dusty papers. The woman looked up and met Anna's gaze, then vanished into thin air. Shocked, Anna investigated the area and found nothing. She later learned from a senior colleague that the building had once been a small library where the librarian was tragically murdered, leading her to believe she had encountered the lost spirit. Staff members at a tech startup often found their chairs moved, personal items missing, or emails sent that they didn't recall drafting. One day, a programmer named Alex decided to confront the unseen presence, demanding it to reveal itself. To his shock, the lights flickered, and a cold breeze swept through the office, leading him to believe that the spirit was playfully interacting with them. As stories of the strange occurrences spread, the team grew to accept their quirky ghost as part of the office culture. When a new employee, Barbara, inherited an antique desk from a retiring colleague, she was thrilled. However, shortly after moving it into her office, she began experiencing a series of misfortunes, losing important files, missing deadlines, and strange noises at night. Frustrated, she researched the desk's history and discovered that it belonged to a previous employee who had fallen into despair and ultimately left the company under dark circumstances. The desk seemed to carry with it a curse that affected anyone who sat in it. Finally, we have a touching yet eerie story. An employee named Mike received an email from a coworker who had recently passed away. The message was heartfelt, filled with cherished memories and advice, ending with a chilling line: "I'll always be watching over you." Initially confused, Mike felt a wave of grief but also comfort. The email came from a shared company account that had been dormant since the coworker's passing, leaving Mike with a haunting reminder that love and connection can transcend even death. Now I want to know what you think about those terrifying stories below in the comments, and if you have any paranormal experiences as well. If you enjoy videos like this, make sure you go ahead and like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more content. And remember, stay curious and keep exploring the unknown.